Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Aries season, which runs from March to April 2026. I hope you're well. I'm using the 777 Tarot for you today. I love this deck. It's been my go-to since I bought it on Christmas Eve. Anywho, what we are doing here today is we are going to look at three distinct things. We are going to look at, as we have done previously, where are you right now? I think that this is really important because these readings will be called Crossing the Rubicon. So, like, knowing where you are is incredibly helpful, I think. And given that in my circle community we have been working a lot with the decans, we're actually doing a decan walk over there now, and we are in the period of the Two of Wands. I want to know where the axe is falling for each of us, because this crossing the Rubicon, axe falling, whatever kind of metaphor you want to use for it, there's a separation going on here, and it's a separation from what was towards what will be. And so I think it's quite useful. It will be quite a useful exercise to have a look and see where that's happening in your life for you. And then simply we will look at the next step. Now there will be an extended and we'll go deeper into what you need to know. If there's anything really interesting that comes out in this bit here, we'll probably be digging deeper into that. So if you want to join me for the extended, you're welcome to do so. Links for that are in the description box below. You can come see me on Selfie, or you can come join Circle and come participate in the stuff that we've got going on over there, because it's an extraordinary place to be. I think there's some really good stuff happening over there. Anyway, let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Virgo. Can I have some cards to tell me where Virgo is right now, please? We have the Seven of Wands on its side. We have the Ace of Swords on its side, right there. Makes a lot of sense. And we have the Three of Cups, which is pretty much also on its side. So I think it's safe to say that there's a distinct lack of clarity around you at the moment, Virgo. And that's okay. That's all right. That's very much the energies of the moment. Where is the axe falling for Virgo, please? Ooh. Five of Wands and the Four of Pentacles. We have the Nine of Swords. Oh, good Lord. Look at this. Nine of Swords on its side. Six of Swords on its side. Eight of Pentacles on its side. More, please. That's two. And we've got the Nine of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles. Right. And finally, the next step, please, for Virgo. What is the next step? Queen of Swords. Lovely. The Tower. Okay. And we have the Three of Pentacles with the Two of Wands. There it is. There's that decan that we were talking about. Oh, I have made so many videos on the Two of Wands in the last few days. I can't even tell you. It's a really ripe period for leaning into astrology, but also leaning into the tarot and how it can help you navigate through this, because I think ultimately that's what the tarot is about. It's a navigation tool if you know how to use it. And kind of digging into the deeper meanings than just hello, we're at a crossroads. Like I said, this axe energy of the first decan of Aries is the splitter. It's the separator, and we've got that going on here for you right now. Now, in terms of where you are, I think the confusion is ripe. Seven of Wands on its side, which is Mars and Leo, has this quality of not quite knowing where we're supposed to be directing our energy, at the very least, you know, what we are supposed to be doing. But in a broader sense, what it is we're fighting. Now, depending on, you know, your own personal situation at the moment, that could be a very specific thing. You know, you may feel like you're being attacked on all sides. You may feel to some extent like you're being a bit attacked by the universe. That's possible too, because the Seven of Wands can speak to a protective and guarded energy, right? It'd be like this thing, you know, is precious. I'm going to stand up for this thing. I'm going to protect this thing. But it can also be very defensive as well. And this, to some extent, then the Seven of Wands can also represent resistance. Now, we have to remember that the South Node is moving through your sign at the moment, so things are, I think for the last year or so, shit's been pretty exhausting for you, Virgo, right? but now it feels so chaotic. It doesn't feel to me like it's entirely clear whether you are engaged in a fight against the world and you're standing up for what you believe in, or you're standing up for what's right, or you're simply trying to protect what is yours, or whether you are engaged in resistance and actually fighting yourself. I mean, we've got two cards that could speak to that going on right now. And the addition of the Ace of Swords on its side is, I think, really difficult for you as a Mercury ruled sign. You like to understand things, you like to have the details of things. Virgos like to show up with receipts for everything, right? But this lack of clarity around what you're standing for, what you're fighting for, whether you are fighting yourself or whether you're fighting the world. I mean, Hermetic principles would say, as above, so below, right? So whatever you're internally feeling, quite likely being projected out there into the world, right? And that's then what you see. And maybe sometimes you might be projecting, your own internal struggle out there, and misinterpreting the energy that is coming back and deciding that this is you under attack, or something along these lines. What it's saying is, though, that the lack of clarity just seems to be worse than a sword of Damocles over your head. Just in case you were not aware, the sword of Damocles was suspended by a single hair, I believe, single human hair over the sword, over the head of someone, right? And it's that sense that at any moment something could drop and you're going to get speared by that said same, sword. It's not even doing that. There's no clarity about where you find yourself. There's no clarity around what is actually happening and how you're supposed to respond to it. And now the Three of Cups is quite interesting as an addition there, because obviously that's water energy. We've got some very masculine stuff going on here, and then we've got some feminine energy in terms of the Three of Cups. And for me, that's about emotional support networks. It's where we feel connected to other people. And Virgo, you feel like you've been cast adrift somewhat. It is not that, and we certainly, I wouldn't suggest that it's all sorts of relationships have broken down around you and now you're feeling isolated and alone. It's not quite as clear cut as that, because it's on its side. It's this sense of not just tension, but these tiny little tears that are starting to show up in the relationships around you, where before there was a kind of closeness and it just doesn't feel like it's there anymore. There's something else that has been perceived instead. I mean, get this out, have a look at this, because I do feel like part of this is what's clouding your vision around what the truth of any given situation is, and also how you are supposed to deal with that, right? It's all very well to say, in the fire horse year, in the numerological year 1, in the year where all the planets are in fire and air, that action is going to be rewarded over over quiet contemplation and all sorts of things. But if we can't work out where we're supposed to be being brave, where we're supposed to be being courageous, or even where we may have misinterpreted what is going on to the extent that we are actually in an active state of resistance to ourselves, what are you supposed to do with that energy? It sounds exhausting. Tell me about this Three of Cups, please. We have the Seven of Swords. Interesting. And the Knight of Pentacles. There you are. Well, you'll notice immediately that these two cards are kind of going in different directions, right? There's you, and you're going off in that direction, but there's something here that's headed off back that way. It's like the push-pull energy, Virgo, is who you were, like I said right at the beginning, right? Who you were versus who you will become, and who is coming along with you on that journey. And it feels, like it's a slow dawning realization that the people that you thought were coming with you, the people that you thought were evolving in the same way, or even experiencing life in the same way as you aren't doing that. It's starting to show the holes everywhere. So what was previously emotionally supportive and what felt like it was really, really keeping you grounded and really holding you up, is now somehow performing a different function, and it doesn't feel grounding, and it doesn't feel supportive in the same way that it used to. And I think there's also an issue here, Virgo, around whether you feel like you're showing up properly. It's almost like you can't show up in the ways that you did before. Now, to some extent, I like that, because this splitting, however you want to look at it, whether it's from a past version of you to a future version of you, or from the collective to an individualized state, which I think is probably very strong for you here at the moment, particularly when we've got this card that we can absolutely, for you, associate with identity going on here. It just feels like everything is overwhelmingly confusing. And what I do feel is that there is a willingness in you to leave your comfort zone. There is a willingness in you to direct your energy. But the energy is building and the route forward is not clear. And so it feels like air filling up a balloon. And this air is looking for a point of escape, but it just keeps getting squashed. It's like everything's feeling a little bit claustrophobic at the moment, Virgo. And you would love nothing more than to see a pinhole in the latex of the balloon that would say, all the air can exit this way. This is the way that we're going to go. But it's not showing up. And I think you would be willing to create that hole if you had certain... Now, the word that I want to use is guarantees, Virgo. But there are no guarantees. All there is a sense of dissatisfaction with what is, and an absolute blank page with what will be, who you will be. And to some extent, that is actually the ideal situation, Virgo. But there's a shift in consciousness that has to happen first so that we can identify that as a good thing, rather than a thing that is, dark and full of terrors. The Four of Swords is at the bottom of the deck here, and that talks about taking a break, taking a step back. It is to some extent like the performance of a reset in one's psyche. Because the swords represent, the workings of the mind and communication and all this kind of thing. And the way that we've gone from a Three of Cups on its side to a Four of Swords says this is a very necessary point of discomfort that you're in at the moment. I think you want more than anything to have some sort of shining light show you which way to go, and there isn't one. And what's really difficult about this time is it's going to ask you to dig really, really deep on who you actually are, what you actually value, what you actually think is important, in amongst all of this shifting sand. I want to say, we're crossing the Rubicon. There is no way of coming back from the energy of this season. This is the season that changes everything. But that means that everything is open for reinvention. Everything is open for a new kind of original version of and I mean original as in original who you were before the world got to you, version of Virgo to come out. Not one that's been curated, not one that is that has been shaped by the people around you, but something that is purely of you. Now, when we ask the question of where the axe is falling for you, we have the Five of Wands and the Four of Pentacles. Now that is tremendous, Virgo. I know that in the state that you're in at the moment, it probably feels anything but tremendous. But and it does lead me to think that a lot of the resistance that you're feeling at the moment, or a lot of the resistance that you are experiencing without necessarily recognizing that you're experiencing, is this separation of self from established norms, right? This is how Virgo behaves, this is how Virgo shows up, this is how Virgo needs to show up, because this is how Virgo gets accepted with things, and this is how Virgo stops getting ambushed by life. That one feels very, very strong. There's such a pulling away from your history that is happening here at this time. And there may well be expressions of it outside of you. It may well be in the environment, right? It could be that you're on, I don't know, that you're on the cusp of getting divorced, or you're getting on the cusp of getting married, or something like that. I feel like actually, though, if that were the issue, then it would be less about the internal conflict that's going on. This feels more like closing the door on the story of who you were, and you not being quite sure if you're ready to do that, because the future is so open. The thing I was saying at the beginning about how the way that time is working at the moment, like the linearity that we're used to time operating within, and the certain amount of predictability that comes with that, is just not here. It's like everything is stacked on top of itself. And to some extent, from an outside perspective, it would be quite easy for somebody else to point at the things that need to be voluntarily surrendered at this time, because it's all part of the growth process here for you. But the reality of the internal state is that there's a fear here. That's what's playing out underneath here, Virgo. There is a fear here that if you let go, whether it's letting go of a narrative, whether it's letting go of a certain set of situations, whether it's letting go of an identity that is in a state of flux right now anyway, right? But you let go of the core tenets of that identity, that there would be simply a nothingness. You know, we've got this potentialized energy here on its side, 9 of Swords, 6 of Swords, 8 of Pentacles, that are showing you, I feel in a really obvious way, exactly what the process is. Now, they're not showing up in the upright. It's not quite as crystal clear as that. But I feel like you feel it. You feel it coming up from the depths, right? So we have this 9 of Swords, 6 of Swords, 8 of Pentacles. And if we look at that, there's a couple of things that we need to notice straight off. The first is we have movement in the 6 of Swords, right? You are being asked to leave something behind. You're being asked to leave this previous version of you behind, but maybe also circumstances and situations, and definitely internal narratives. No question about that whatsoever. And part of those, a part of what is so resist-worthy about those internal narratives is, to some extent, you have over-identified with them being the core version of who you are, and this is incorrect, Virgo. This is what this period is telling us here, right? And this is why it has the quality of the axe, right? There's no negotiation with the axe. It's coming no matter what. And for you, it's that fear of who you would be without the narrative, right? And possibly what would we expect from a sign that is ruled by Mercury, right? The internal narrative. You know, your major arcana card is the Magician, right? It is about manifestation. And to some extent, abracadabra, right? I create as I speak. Whatever narrative is running in your head is the version of reality that you are working with. Like, it's mentally heavy. Always with you. It's not feelings led like it would be, for example, for a water sign, right? It feels like all of this energy at the moment has a kind of dread inevitability about it. Like, you know exactly where this is going. You know exactly what is what actually needs to be let go. But your mind is creating a fog around it because of the underlying fear that's going on instead, right? So this 9 of Swords here is just that kind of the Nine of Swords can be anxiety and all this sort of thing, right? But when I've talked about the Nine of Swords before, what's really interesting in the Waite Smith is it is the only card that is depicted with the swords being horizontal. Now, this is an important point because it makes it all about perception. So if the Nine of Swords is all about perception, and to add in that I have this rather arbitrary rule of swords up good, swords down bad, we've got the swords down here. And it can lend some credibility to the fact that there is actually something here to be concerned about. But I think the thing to be concerned about is the concern itself. You know, if you recognise that you are crossing the Rubicon or standing on the threshold of an entire reinvention of you that has actually been going on for quite a long time, Virgo. Like I said, the South Node moved into your sign in January 2025, right? But the South Node is getting ready to leave your sign in July. It's going to move into Leo. That is going to, it's going to give you some breathing space, right? But the South Node is about the great balancing. It is about the removal of things that no longer serve you. We all know the thing, right? And the preservation of those things that are deeply and uniquely yours. This is the essence of the Four of Pentacles in a nutshell. It's like what bit represents what. You know, the Four of Pentacles, sometimes called the miser card, because it's kind of clamping down on the energy. And it's like, no, I don't want to let anything go. It's a Capricorn card, interestingly. But if you don't let anything go, you can't make space for new things to come in. In the Spirit Keeper's deck, this is known as the Conservator. And so it gives us this idea that some of what is being held here is actually quite important and should come through with you. Some of it needs to be left behind, and there's the essence of the South Node playing out in this moment. So the question then becomes, not everything is terrible and you're right to be anxious and all that kind of thing, but instead, I don't know why my computer's just decided it's going to roar like a jet engine, becomes instead, why are you so worried? This Eight of Pentacles here is a Virgo card. It's first deck in a Virgo. It talks about hard work. It talks about consistency, discipline. It talks about the need to really put the effort in. But it also talks about this being the staging point for all future benefit that will come. Now, is part of what you're afraid of the hard work? It's not really a Virgo trait to be afraid of hard work, right? There's a diligence about Virgo that actually thrives on hard work. But at the same time, if you're coming from a place of complete exhaustion and you don't know who you are and you don't know who is with you, there's something kind of isolating and lonely about that. And if you add on top that you may be having conflicts with people, situations, things outside of you, and it is striking a note with an internal kind of conflict that you have, then I'm not surprised that these cards are coming up. Yet they're pointing the way, because it's Nine of Swords, Six of Swords, Eight of Pentacles. They recognizing that your perspective is the thing that is creating the issue. Moving away from that and putting in the hard work is what takes you to the possibility of the Nine of Pentacles, to the possibility of the Nine of Cups. There's never an empty space, right? The universe abhors a vacuum, right? There will always be something that comes in to fill an empty space. And the question of how much you want what for you might represent the Nine of Pentacles, again, another Virgo card, and leading on from the Eight, to the Nine of Cups, emotional fulfillment, emotional regulation, right? All these kind of things. Having the ability to be able to manage these things is asking you to go through this journey, even if you don't know where it will lead, especially if you don't know where it will lead. Because to some extent, what's required here is a bit of faith and trust in you yourself, not the structures around you that have supported you up until this point, but something that is intrinsically real in you needs to go through this process, and the axe is falling at a point where it's saying this is kind of the sticking point. This is what's stopping the movement for you. You know, the Eight of Swords, which precedes this 9 here, is a card where I will always say it's the way that you're thinking about the problem that is the problem, right? And if we stay in that state for long enough where we hope that somebody will save us, you know, we don't do the wriggling to free our hands and remove the blindfold, what happens is, excuse me, we end up at the 9. And then perspective is lost. And it's a canny fight to try and get it back again. I think the anxiety around the unknown is the problem. And I think the anxiety around the way that you are framing what comes next is also part of the issue, because you're perceiving a blank emptiness, a blank nothingness where you don't know who you are and you don't know who's there and you don't know what you're doing and all that kind of thing. Whereas the situation is, here's a blank page. What do you want to fill it with? Using all the knowledge and wisdom that you have accrued over, you know, certainly over this lifetime, right? But over the experiences that you've had. To some extent, if you could choose to start again right now, knowing what you know, this would be the point where you would start that process. You don't have to have all of the answers in advance, Virgo. You simply need to be willing to put yourself out there to experience them a little bit. And like I said, those guarantees that you were looking for are not present. You can't have them. But what we can have is opportunity and possibility to create the kind of life that reflects that true version of you that has been hidden for some time, to be fair. So the next step then is an interesting one. You know, it is the nature of fire that it is pretty individualistic, to be honest. And we have a universal year 1, which is of the nature of fire. We have, you know, in a Chinese astrology, it is the fire horse year. It is the wrecking ball. We have a sense of crossing the Rubicon, right? And it all comes down to what you individually want, Virgo. Not what's best for the family, not what's best for your friends, not what's best for your spouse. It's like, how can you allow the true version of Virgo to appear and begin the process of allowing the universe to start throwing in your direction things that you would then be able to take advantage of, right? Those things that you would actually be able to engage with. The Queen of Swords is quite interesting here, because for me, the queens help us understand whatever suit they represent, right? So this is more about understanding the workings of your own mind, and to some extent, the limitations of your own mind in terms of the way that you have been perceiving what is right in front of you, and the fear that you feel about what is right in front of you. I don't think it's going to be as easy as just snapping your fingers to reprogram your brain into this is a great adventure, because there are things that will be lost. Like, they, by necessity, they have to be lost. We're moving away. And whilst it would be appropriate to allow a level of grief for that, because I think we grieve for everything that has been lost, you know, whether it's even a marriage that we didn't enjoy, we've changed state, we've now lost the stability, we've lost the potential of what that could be, and now we're faced with an entirely different reality, right? Things are opening up here for you to fill them with as many different things as you would like, but in the first instance you have to recognize that it is your mind that has been keeping you in this low-level fear state, right? To the point where you're kind of rolling all over the place and being like, I just don't know what to do. And it's like, well, you don't have to react to all of these circumstances. You just have to allow yourself to gracefully move through them. And that is something that Virgo can do if they stop trying to understand everything to the minutest detail, right? Because we talk about the South Node being in your sign, but the North Node is in Pisces, which means it's that kind of blanket acceptance. Okay, this is cool, you know, to some extent, we're talking about you having a bit of faith and trust in yourself, because you're an incredibly resourceful, incredibly capable human being. And the fear is that you're not. The fear is that, I think I used the word ambush before, there's a fear that the universe is going to ambush you. Now, this tower here does have the quality of an ambush, to some extent. But I feel like the next step here is understanding that the tower is happening almost universally. Well, it is pretty much universally, right? There is a change in direction for human beings that really does pick up from this point on. Like the tower, it will have all sorts of structures falling down, and we will arrive at a point where we're like, okay, well, the tower's not there anymore. The tower was there, the tower's not there anymore. Now comes the point where we decide what we're going to do about that. I've said before, you know, when the dust after the tower falling has settled, we are presented with a number of options. Do we rebuild? And if we do rebuild we rebuild it in the same place? Or do we take it somewhere that's a little safer? Do we rebuild it to the same you know, footprint, to the same design? Or do we change it? Do we build something that we could maintain a little better than whatever has been before? And I'm talking about on a personal and collective level here, Virgo, right? But in terms of what you should be interested in, it's really in the personal level. Or do we not build the tower at all? Might we be better with this little place down here? I think one of the things about this period, Aries season, and all the astrology that goes along with that, and I've talked about it at length, and there are many astrologers who are talking about the same, so I'm not going to fill time here talking about it, is that the things that happen this season are going to happen. And we can either waste time freaking out about it, but in the end, what is your worry going to change? Nothing. If we can reorient towards the idea that we have a blank page in front of us, and that the tower itself is an unavoidable energy, right? In the same way that death is. I mean, quite literally on the death card, we have that that understanding that there is nothing that can withstand it. The death card was actually at the bottom of the deck when I picked that deck up. I did clock it. The tower has a similar kind of quality to it. You know, we really fuck up when we try and resist the tower. It's just going to hit anyway, right? So we've got a point here of understanding the point of the tower, understanding the extent of the tower, but also recognizing that we ourselves are ready for this release. We are ready for this change. We are ready for the wide open space that is all the potential that we could possibly want to rebuild a life that is ours, that doesn't have all of that other stuff associated with it, you know? I think the Three of Pentacles is quite interesting here on its side, because there is I think there may well be well, the Three of Cups and the Three of Pentacles have a similar kind of quality to them, except that the Three of Pentacles is looking to build, right? Here we've got a card of what we're trying to hold on to. Over here we've got things being kicked over right, left and centre. And here we have a card of rebuilding together. But notice that it's in this state of kind of potential. What do I mean? Well, shit needs to fall down before you know what you're going to build in its place. And we probably won't know what we're going to build in this place. What we need to know is just that it's okay for us to sit in this place. It's okay for the tower to fall. It's okay for this widespread disruption and confusion, but we need to understand what is happening underneath. And this is what is happening underneath. Because there will come a point where that Three of Pentacles will show up the right way. But if you're not around the right kind of people, if there is a mismatch now starting to happen between you and everybody else, no, it doesn't matter who it is, then we're not in a place where we could even contemplate rebuilding a thing. Like there's a wider message here of everybody needing to move into this state of a higher version of themselves, right? A transcended consciousness. And we've all been influenced by that over the course of the last year. I mean, 2025 was a huge fucking year for that, right? But it's still very much happening. And this here, you know, there's no getting away from the craziness of April. There's no restricting the craziness of April. There's nothing that we can do to resist it. But there's everything that we can do to allow ourselves to be the best version of ourselves, unencumbered by the past, unencumbered by a sense of what we should be, or what we should be doing, or how we should be feeling. That Four of Swords is like, give yourself the grace, give yourself the time to not have the answers and be okay with that. Because you trust yourself, you have faith in yourself. I mean, I do feel like that's a lot of what is missing here. And when it comes time to build, you'll find yourself surrounded by the people with whom you want to do that. People reflecting your consciousness back at you. You know? This is really interesting. I am going to leave it here. I'm going to go to the extended now. We're going to dig into this a little bit more. I suspect some of you you're going to want to know what this tower is a little bit more. But I mean, like the tower is simply the removal. I'm kind of more interested in what happens after that. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said at the beginning, links to Selfie and Circle are in the description box below, and I'd be delighted to see you in either place. This is truly an extraordinary time to be alive, Virgo. And I'm actually excited. I'm wriggling my toes about it. I am actually really excited about this. But I'm as much excited to see this pure version of you unencumbered by the issues of the past and the concerns and the anxieties of the past that you may be projecting forwards. Right? Accept the blank page. Because only then can we really get into a state of creation, you know? All right. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.